Cancer, welcome to your end of April 2017 general tarot forecast. It's Rena here. So I was informed by a viewer that I had not posted your video, and I don't know exactly what happened, but here it is, and it's really not that late, so that's pretty good. Also, I wanted to let you know that there's going to be a new moon in your 11th house on April 25th, and this is in the sign of Taurus. So the 11th house is hopes and wishes. It involves friends and group associations. This is supposed to be the luckiest house, so definitely set your intentions if you want to possibly attract certain things and you believe in this kind of thing. I just wanted to let you know that I really feel the 11th house can be a fortunate influence for some of you. Okay. Okay, now I'm trying to remember here. I've been doing a new spread, and I'm trying to decide if I'm going to... I think I'm going to just do the other one because that's how I did the other ones. So... Ooh, a lot of swords. Interesting. Okay, so the heart of the matter involves a possible choice. For some of you, it will be, should I stay or should I go? For some of you, it can involve a relationship, and sometimes the number 2 relates to choosing between two people. Maybe you're having a hard time. Or it could be deciding whether or not to stay with one person or to go. Oh, and you see the person's holding the world in their hand, or a globe. So it could be talking about leaving, like moving away from wherever it is that you're living and going somewhere new. For some Cancers, that can be a real wrenching decision, because I think a lot of Cancer people are very sentimental, and even if you're not necessarily that happy where you are, if you have a lot of ties with family, with memories, you may have a hard time leaving, even if it would be for career matters, because the wands can relate to career situations also. This could be a fire sign individual or somebody with a fiery temperament who you're dealing with. Aries, one of the biggies. I would say Aries and Libra, particularly. Oh, why did I say Libra? I would say Aries particularly, and the other fire signs are Leo and Sagittarius. And the past position that influences the situation is the 8 of Swords. So this is feeling oppressed in whatever situation you're in. In a job situation, it can be feeling a sense of maybe you're trapped because of the fact that it's something predictable, or it's something that pays a wage that you feel is very good, and it may be that you have other opportunities, maybe even your own opportunity to strike out, but you're afraid of unstable finances. You see the person is blindfolded, so there can be an element of denial or self-deception going on, where you are not seeing things clearly. Maybe you're creating your own narrative because it suits you in some way, and it allows you to pretend that something else is happening than what is really happening. An example of this would be staying in a marriage where you are unhappy because you're afraid of the unknown. And so you may believe the lies of your spouse, but deep down you know that it's a lie, and that makes you very upset. The swords, and you do have several swords, can talk about strife and drama. I would say, well, no, I shouldn't say drama so much as kind of, especially on the mental level, discord. Maybe thinking too much and having a lot of just not having that sense of peace that is associated with somebody that is in a good relationship, okay? When people are in a state, and I shouldn't just say relationship, I mean if you're in a career that you like, you are not going to be anxious when you go to work if you are happy there. So obviously, when you have a lot of these swords, there's a lot of mental energy, and there's a lot of unease, maybe, is a good way of putting it. And then we have the Empress. For some people, it could be literally that you want to stay home with your child, and you feel like you have to work to support your child. Because, and maybe there's that could be a choice. Or maybe it's that you want to do both and you feel like you have to choose. For some people, it could be, I even have a feeling that you could find out, maybe they're not being supportive of you as a parent and you're working. For some of you, it may be that comes about. This is the higher message, that you do end up getting betrayed by these people. Maybe they are pretending that, oh yeah, it's cool. You can work, you can be a mother, and you can work, and you can take off when you need to take off for your child. And then maybe you took off for your maternity leave, and then they fired you or demoted you. And the Empress card is also about abundance. So I feel like the money situation is not really an issue. Maybe it's more of a sense that you are going to start honoring yourself and not just living life to work or living life to serve other people. You know, Cancer is such a nurturing sign that it tends to put others' needs first. And maybe that Empress card is about you nurturing yourself, getting a massage or whatever it is that makes you feel pampered. If you are in a relationship that is troubled, doing that can be very helpful, because the Ten of Swords can say on the spiritual level that you've already been betrayed. And this is a way of saying this is over with. The number 10 is the end of a cycle. So it's like it's all over but the shouting, whatever's been going on in your relationship. And so you're holding on to something that's already dead, possibly. And the same with a certain employer. You may have had an unhappy experience. The Eight of Swords is feeling like you can't go anywhere, like you're being held prisoner. But it's something you're doing to yourself. Nobody is forcing you to stay in a certain job, but you are forcing yourself because you feel like, oh my God, but what if I don't do this and X happens? And these types of thoughts happen all day, every day, somewhere in the world, where somebody feels compelled to go to work because they're afraid of what could happen. And you know what? Sometimes that is sane, logical. But sometimes it's being used as an excuse to avoid making a decision, as evidenced by the Two of Wands. Sometimes we come to a fork in the road and we don't have the luxury of kind of sweeping it under the rug anymore because it's having too adverse an effect on us. You could be dealing with a choice between a fire sign, as I had mentioned, and an air sign. An Aquarius, Libra. I think that's why I said Libra, because I was thinking of the cardinal signs. And I said Aries and Libra. But that's one of the big ones with Cancer, I think, is Libra and Gemini. And I feel that if this is true for any of you, and by the way, this might not show up as the sun sign, but the rising sign or the moon sign, something, or maybe multiple personal planets that give this person a detached and intellectual air about them, that type of person, the kind of head games that can go on with you and an air sign is that you are water and they are air. And so you may get sucked into a relationship with them, and you may have planets yourself that are in air or fire that kind of are compatible with that. Maybe your moon sign or your rising sign. And so you resonate with them or you attract them, especially if your rising sign is an air or fire sign. And you can get sucked into it because if they are kind of withholding affection, if they're just totally in their head, it may seem familiar to you. Maybe if you're a woman, you had a father who acted like this. And of course I'm being heterocentric, or a man with a woman. Or, maybe I shouldn't even assign parents, but it feels familiar from the past. And that sucks you in because you're trying to make it better and you're trying to make it happen, where you end up winning that person over, and it becomes like this totally hopeless cause, I would say, because that person, unless they're getting off on having you run after them, likely is just being who they are, which happens to be very detached. And that's how they approach life. So if you want to find somebody who emotionally fulfills you, you may have to look elsewhere. But if you're, it's funny because if you're choosing between a fire sign and an air sign, the fire sign person is going to be closer to what you're looking for. However, they have something in common with the air sign. They can be very independent, and you can feel frustrated. You're very domestic. Susie Cream Cheese, or Susie Homemaker, I meant. And that is something that, and obviously I'm being, what's female-centric? I'm being female-centric. I'm being facetious with these terms, but women who are Cancers, a lot of times they tend to be very domestic, and they like to do traditional, I was going to say girly things, but female activities that have been assigned to women, such as cooking and taking care of the house, being homemakers and taking care of the children. And even the male Cancers can be like this too. And if you attract a fire sign person, you may be frustrated with them because you feel like they're not sharing that same love of the home that you have. And they just have different aspirations. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just different. I do feel that for some of you, the air sign person is the problem personality. Knight of Swords. This can be a person who has a very blunt speech pattern. So that particularly I associate with Gemini. of all the swords. And they tell it like it is. They can be sarcastic. And this may hurt you. You're very sensitive. And they may tease you or do things like that to maybe get a reaction out of you. Or just because they don't think before they talk, they're very rash in that sense with their communication. And it can be upsetting. This could be a lawyer that is a rogue lawyer. Maybe it's somebody that you can't really trust. If you're trying to inquire about a divorce, that could be a problem, a challenge. In career matters, it could be a coworker, maybe somebody younger than you, up to the age of maybe 40. Especially if you work in the legal profession and paralegal, lawyers, the Knight of Swords. And they could be problematic to you. Maybe it's a coworker who is very competitive or otherwise, and trying to assert their superiority through their intellect or verbal skills. I think what's coming in is the Queen of Pentacles. You know, this is perfect. This is Susie, I want to say cream cheese. This is Susie Homemaker. This is a woman who is the queen of her castle. And with the Pentacles, it's not just talking about the physical house, but the possessions that you have, the comfort level, the affluence. This is a card of affluence. If you resonated with what I was talking about being a stay-at-home mother, or I'll just say parent, then you can you may decide that this is more important. And you'll also, if you, let's say you're married, you'll decide, you know, we really don't need two incomes. We really are financially stable. And I'm just being a worrywart. And so I'm going to stay home with my child because it just feels right to me. And you may even do business from home. When I see the Queen of Pentacles, it is associated with the home, but Pentacles is still money and still could be you being a businesswoman at home. And some people do that nowadays. I live in an area with a lot of these yuppie mothers. And somebody told me, they said, oh yeah, they all have home businesses, you know, even though they're stay-at-home mothers. So I wouldn't have necessarily assumed that, you know, by looking at them, but they do. And so maybe that's something that you'll decide to do if that's appropriate for your situation. For decisions about, if you, let's say you're married and there's somebody that you have fallen in love with outside of the marriage, you may decide to stay home. So that means you would stay with your spouse, unless you're hiring some lawyer and, you know, taking your husband to the cleaners. What else? It could be maybe your dream home. Maybe that's what the Two of Wands is about, whether to move and you get that dream home where you really feel like you can decorate it the way you want and things like that. As I say, the heart of the matter is a choice, perhaps, of where to go. And for some people, it might be that you stay where you are and just fix up where you are and enjoy that. Or it could be that you move to your dream house. And the outcome is the Seven of Wands. And that could be the person that you choose. It could be the fire sign individual. It can also be about standing your ground. So if you, I mean, perhaps maybe your spouse is the one who's making the decision between you and another person, and that makes you feel anxious and trapped. That would be saying you need to not be a doormat. You need to stand up for yourself. Don't play the victim. Cancer people tend to manipulate through guilt, and one aspect of that is trying to get people to feel sorry for you and guilt them that way. But really, that is not an effective tool for getting what you want, because you don't want people to pity you. You want people to respect you. Pity is not a form of respect. And if you feel like somebody is putting you in that Eight of Swords position of oppression, then you have to defend yourself against it by not allowing them to walk all over you. And especially if you're with a fire sign individual, and I'm thinking Leo and Aries specifically, where they are very domineering, or they can be, you may just fall into your shell, your crab's shell, and kind of hide out. Or maybe it's a boss who's like that. And maybe that's why you feel oppressed. Maybe you're dealing with a boss who's from hell. But you have to stand up for yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And I really feel that if you have a pattern of being bullied or treated in a manner that is not something that you deserve, or you don't feel that you deserve, you have to look towards yourself. Like, what kind of vibes do you put out? Are you somebody who kind of allows yourself to be bullied in some way? And I know people are going to say blaming the victim, but to me, I tend to believe more of that saying, there are no victims, only volunteers. And we may volunteer for a very good spiritual reason, to experience victimhood in order to understand what it's like from the other end. Especially if we've done the same thing in other lifetimes. So that's another good reason not to feel sorry for yourself, because you never know what your karma is and whether or not you're having to experience what you may have done in another lifetime to somebody else. And this is the only way to really understand that. It's not punishment. It's just cause and effect. But I feel like for some of you, this is going to be a card of empowerment, where you're going to finally stand up for yourself. And once you do stand up for yourself, you will probably see other things fall in place, where people will just so happen to treat you better. I'm not even talking about within a problematic situation, but in general in life. That's what I have found personally, is that the more I am conscious of the way that I want to be treated, and I kind of, I don't have to announce it from the rooftops, but I can just embody it in my life. And when I feel that somebody is not doing it, if I can just communicate that, I feel a lot more in control of my life. And I think that you will too. So I hope that you enjoyed this, Cancer, and I wish you well for the rest of April. Bye.